what I would like to review is that we've seen at least talked to 7 or 8 patients. One man named Kenny, a girl named Victoria, and one person with whom we don't know was warning us about Union soldiers to be watching out for them, which makes sense from what Eddie has said about how the Union troops came through here. We have had, I was touched, Carrie Ann was touched. We felt a breeze go through and come back with a witness and a K2 meter that also marked the same movement. Steve was able to get a voice of a man and a woman, which coincides with the fact that we had said we had a male and a female, I should say. So I think things have been extremely productive in here.
Something about the other room we're going to go into is there something that in that room where was there a treatment room or?
That was part of the treatment room.
Because that's where he had his worst encounter. So I guess we can go, maybe we can get him to talk about that today.
A lot of these buildings, houses on this street were used for Confederate hospitals. Because you got to remember the Battle of Aiken in 1865 happened about 2 streets over on Newberry, from Newberry out towards Montmorency. And houses like this that were far away from the battlefield would have been used for field hospitals.
That would make sense.
Absolutely.
And if they had an infection from some type of injury on the battlefield, it would eat them alive. Because you know how the gangrene and that.
That's why because that's the first thing in the smell.
And the smell of rotting flesh.
But you know, too,
yes.
back then, the only thing they needed to do was amputate.
Right.
And what they would have done was amputate the leg.
That was right. Yeah.
And you would amputate legs and arms.
So,
and they would throw them out the window.
Stinks so bad right here.
And that's well, you're close to a window.
Oh my God. It's
and
like
they would have
rotting
thrown
flesh and just, there's the worst smell.
Everything would have gone out the window, and if it was a hot day like a summer's day, except then it was February, but still.
And they used one knife to do whatever, so in just a pan. It wasn't until somebody started slinging alcohol around and doing some cleaning and eating garlic.
They had a little chloroform.
Yeah, that helped. So.
And the Battle of Aiken was the last Confederate victory of the war.
So he was actually saying just a second ago to watch Union. He said Union, watch. And so he must be from that period. And look behind us, what I just said, and she's confirming. All right. We're getting somewhere. We're really getting somewhere.
How long was this before the war ended?
This was February 1865. The battle itself was February 11th, 1865. What happened was, when Sherman hit Savannah, he had a 3-pronged attack from Savannah to try to confuse the Confederates. He put men on ships in Savannah and sent them to Beaufort to march on to Charleston. Kilpatrick came from Savannah up through Allendale, Barnwell, Aiken, up this way, with 2 goals in mind. One was again confusion to the Confederates as main goal. 2, he was after the Gregg Mill in Graniteville because it produced 100% of the cloth used for uniforms. And then he was to go across the river and destroy the Confederate powder works in Augusta, which made 100% of the powder, gunpowder, for the entire Confederate Army. And it was also known as the world's finest gunpowder. The Union couldn't come close to making it. We had the first railroad in South Carolina, the best friend of Charleston, come through here. And it ran from Charleston to a town called Hamburg. Now, you may never have heard of Hamburg, but you probably heard of North Augusta. That was Hamburg. They said that there was a man living in Hamburg that hated Augusta so much, thought Augusta was coming across the river on the south side, and they changed the name of Hamburg to North Augusta. Then when he was buried butt facing Augusta. I don't remember the man's name, but I thought it was a cute story.
Probably Hamburg.
Probably. But they said in the beginning that the train wasn't going to come through Aiken because it was too hilly. So what happened was, we had this little engineer fella. He just fell in love with this girl in Aiken. And he wanted to marry her. So he went over to ask the daddy for the hand in marriage. And the daddy said, and I quote, "No train for me, no Sarah for thee." So he came up with an inclined plane that was powered by steam. And what that did was that it activated a wheel. And there was a rope attached, and it pulled each one of the cars up individually. And that's how the Best of Charleston came through Aiken. When it was completed, it was not only the first railroad in South Carolina,
What you found
it was the longest in the country and the longest in the world. And the first steam locomotive, and the first freight locomotive, and the first passenger train.